Every football referee on earth carries two small rectangles of card in their pocket, yellow and red. They have since 1970. They are so woven into the fabric of the game that most fans have never stopped to ask where they came from. But somebody invented them. One man, one evening, on a perfectly ordinary stretch of road in West London. This is his story. Kenneth George Aston was born in Colchester, Essex in 1915. By profession, he was a primary school teacher. He began refereeing almost by accident. Asked to cover a school match at the age of 20, he discovered he had a natural instinct for it. Before returning to teaching and refereeing after the Second World War, Aston served in the Royal Artillery and the British Indian Army, rising to the rank of lieutenant colonel. His final military posting was at the Changi War Crimes Tribunal in Singapore. His duty there, to personally inform convicted Japanese officers of their death sentences. It is worth pausing on that. Before he ever walked into a World Cup stadium, this man had looked condemned men in the eye and told them they were going to die. He also, almost as a footnote, invented the referee's black uniform, simply by showing up to a match in a military surplus jacket and watching his colleagues copy him. Small inventions seemed to follow Kenneth Aston without him looking for them. On the 2nd of June, 1962, Aston was handed the most chaotic assignment in World Cup history, Chile versus Italy, the quarter-final stage, and a match that had already curdled before a single ball was kicked. Italian newspapers had published coverage dismissing Chile as an unfit host nation. The Chileans had read every word. By the time the two sides walked out at the Estadio Nacional, this was not a football match. It was a confrontation. The violence began within seconds. Italian player Giorgio Farini was sent off after 4 minutes and simply refused to leave. Armed police entered the pitch to escort him from the field. Players punched and kicked each other in full view of the referee. Police intervened 4 separate times. Aston later described it as, and this is a man who had witnessed a war crimes tribunal, the most disgusting exhibition the game had ever seen. He left Santiago knowing that football's disciplinary system was fundamentally broken. The problem was communication. Referees could send players off, but they had no reliable way to tell them or the watching world exactly what was happening and why. He had no solution. Not yet. By the 1966 World Cup in London, Aston had been appointed FIFA's head of referees, responsible for all officiating decisions across the entire tournament. It was the highest refereeing position in the world, and Wembley was about to hand him the clearest possible illustration of the problem he'd been carrying since Santiago. During the quarter-final between England and Argentina, German referee Rudolf Kreitlein sent off Argentina's captain, Antonio Rattin. There was one problem. Rattin spoke only Spanish. He had no idea he had been dismissed. What followed was a 9-minute standoff at the center of Wembley Stadium. Rattin argued, gestured, sat down on the royal carpet at the side of the pitch, simply refusing to accept an instruction he could not understand. England's Jack Charlton later discovered, reading a newspaper the following morning, that he himself had been booked during the same match. He had not known during the game. The caution had happened verbally, invisibly, in a language he didn't speak. A yellow card existed in the referee's head. Nobody else could see it. Aston drove home from Wembley, turning the problem over in his mind. The game needed a visual language, something that required no interpreter, something that a player, a crowd, a television audience, anyone, anywhere on earth could read instantly. Driving along Kensington High Street that evening, Aston stopped at a red light, and the solution arrived fully formed: yellow to caution, red to dismiss, a system every driver already understood. A system that operated entirely without language. It didn't matter if you were from Buenos Aires or Turin or Seoul or Accra. You knew what yellow meant. You knew what red meant. The traffic light had already taught the world. He explained the idea to his wife, Hilda, when he got home. She went to another room and returned with 2 small rectangles of construction paper, one yellow, one red, cut to fit inside a shirt pocket. That was it. That was the prototype. Yellow and red cards were formally introduced at the 1970 World Cup in Mexico City. The game had a language, a visual grammar that worked in any stadium, in any country, in any language on earth. The system was later adopted across handball, hockey, rugby, and water polo. A primary school teacher from Essex who once told condemned men their fates, who wore a surplus jacket and accidentally invented a uniform. He also, on the way home from a football match, looked up at a red light and changed sport forever. The next time you see a card raised at a match, you'll know. It wasn't always there. Someone invented it, and he invented it at a traffic light.